Hello and welcome to Awakened with Lea, the next chapter. I'm your host, Lea, and this show is about bringing to the forefront diverse guests who have experienced adversity and major or minor transitions in life so that we can provide our viewers with courage, confidence, and tangible tools to navigate any challenge in life with the lived experience and wisdom of our guests. So I am so excited to introduce today Brenda Burns, owner of Events Specialist Productions. Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to honor you for being here and sharing your experiences with us. I know that you are going to talk today about growing up in a mixed race family and how that was for you, and a recent life-altering event.
Firstly, thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of Awakened with Lea. I'm quite excited and honored to be a part of this platform. Growing up, I was child of the late 60s and born to two immigrant parents. So my mother is from Leyte in the Philippines, and my father was from Leeds, England. And so growing up, we lived in the north end of Winnipeg and moved to the south end when I was in grade 3. And when I was growing up in the north end, there was a lot of kids and a lot of different families. There was a lot of cultures. When I moved to the south end of Winnipeg, it was very vanilla, and I stood out quite a bit. And it was really difficult for me to understand as a child why I was being treated differently. And it really impacted me growing up. I was quite bullied in elementary school because instantly I stood out. I had a brown mother and a white father, and I would be running home and saying, "Mom, what's going on? The kids are teasing me, or they're making faces or calling me names that I don't understand, and what does this mean?" And my mom was a very, very strong woman, and she instilled in me some lessons that I didn't understand in grade 3, but looking back now as an adult, she taught me in her own way how to stand up for myself and how to be strong and how to strategize around bullies and how to accept who I was as a perfect child, as she would tell us. So it was definitely a learning lesson, and it definitely gave me thick skin and taught me some coping skills, some strategies of how to be different, and that's okay, and how to find your way and place all those strong people around you that will help keep you safe.
It sounds that, as painful as it was, you learned a lot of lessons in order to help you move forward.
Most definitely. I remember coming home in grade 3 and saying, "Mom, I'm going to be a physical education teacher." And she's like, "A what?" My mom was a head nurse, and a lot of Filipino families, they aspire to be a part of the medical community. And I was, destined to be a nurse. My brother was destined to be a doctor. And I came home and told her I wanted to be a physical education teacher, and she just did not understand what I was saying. But I was being quite bullied, and my phys ed teacher made such an impact on me at that young age that I just thought, that's what I want to do. I want to grow up and be a phys ed teacher so I can help other kids. And back in, this would have been 1975. So we used to do these fitness competitions, the Canadian fitness, not competition, the participation. And we had to complete a lot of different long jump, the sprints, all these little activities, flexed arm hang, sit-ups, push-ups. And I was getting the gold standard in all of them except the long jump. And I'm only 4'11" now. You can imagine me grade 3. I was like probably 3 feet tall. And it was my last attempt. And if I got a gold in the long jump, I was going to get the award of excellence. And so I jumped as far as I could. The first time, the second time, I had one last try. I jumped as far as I could, and I looked back, and I was probably about maybe an inch and a half short. And this teacher whipped up the measuring tape, and he went, she did it. Brenda got the award of excellence. And I was like this, well, I know I didn't. But everybody was so excited. And that day changed my life. So I went from being bullied to having all these friends. I wasn't the last picked on teams. People wanted to hang out with me. It was shocking and it was life-changing. And I came home and I'm like, I'm going to be a phys ed teacher. And my mom was like, well, actually, you're going to be a nurse. And it had such an impact on me that I knew since I was grade 3 that I was going to do everything I could to get my grades up, to get into the Faculty of Physical Education and get a degree. And I did, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have that whistle around my neck and help kids. And I didn't end up being a teacher, but I was driven to do so.
What would you say is the specific lesson that you learned after reaching that goal of getting the award?
Empathy. My teacher instantly recognized that I was bullied and that I was not fitting in. And his decision completely changed my path. That one decision of him to lift that tape and celebrate that I was the first girl, and not a lot of guys got the award of excellence, but I was the first girl in my gym class to get that award of excellence, where it was the very special badge. It had the gold participation, it had bronze, silver, gold, it was black, it was beautiful. I loved it. I was very proud of it. And then I became a sports fanatic. I became a sports lover. I became a champion of the underdog. And I was all about the fair play and the good leadership and good coaching. And it truly changed my path. That one decision that he made when I was in grade 3.
Absolutely. I mean, those years of fitting in are hard enough to begin with, let alone being in a mixed race family and what you experience on top of that. And it sounds like the love and support that you had growing up, as well as your mom believing in you before you believed in yourself or even knew how to believe in yourself, set the foundation for this life-altering event that happened to you August 1st of this year. Yes, in order absolutely. To be able to move forward. Can you share a bit of your experience with what happened on August 1st?
Just a complete freak accident. I was watching the Jets playoff game. We're quarantine 2020 and there's not true opportunity for fans to be in rinks or stadiums, and watching the game ended at midnight. Just before midnight, I decided to take the dog out just for a quick little walk so she could do her business before bed. I had turned around. I was on my way home. I was 10 feet from my yard, and she stopped to sniff something. A squirrel came right in front of our path. I got flipped around and I fell to my knees. I could just feel that I really crunched my face, and I thought that I'd broken my jaw and lost some teeth. And I was on my knees and I look up going, oh my goodness. And then poof, she pulled me forward to chase this squirrel. And because I know there's a lot of squirrels in this neighborhood, I kind of wrapped the leash around my wrist just so I could keep her close to me, so that if she did chase a squirrel, she's not wrecking my arm. And she lunged forward after the squirrel, and I impacted the base of my neighbor's tree, which is just literally, I can see it from where I'm sitting right now. And in a complete freak accident, I lost my right eye. And it was scary and horrifying. And I am a type 2 diabetic. I could feel that I was in and out of consciousness. Like I don't know if you actually feel that you're in shock, but I remember holding my face and being on my knees and thinking to myself, you're in trouble. Like, you need to keep your wits about you because you're in trouble. And I looked up and my neighbors' lights were all off. So I knew that they were in bed. I knew my husband had gone to bed sleeping and he falls asleep like this. And I kind of tried to turn my head and look across the street, and I could see all my neighbors' TVs were on because they were probably watching the Jets post-game show. And I just thought, oh my gosh, they're so close yet so far. And there's a survival instinct that when you are in a traumatic situation, I knew my daughter was at a social distancing bonfire. There was her and 6 friends, and they were sitting around the bonfire, and I knew she'd be home in an hour. And I don't know if it's a combination of the survival instinct or the mom instinct, but I knew I was in trouble, and there was no way that I was going to have my daughter get dropped off and see me covered in blood on my neighbor's lawn with a dog attached to my wrist. And probably at that point, I'm not sure what would have happened. I would have gone into shock because she wasn't going to be home for an hour. That wasn't happening. Not on my watch, not today. No, that wasn't happening. And so I was really trying to keep my wits about me, and I was kind of drifting in and out, and the dog, Harley, instantly came back to me, knew that I was in trouble. I was crying out. I wasn't crying. I was crying out for help, but I was so weak. And I thought the only way I'm going to make it is if I get to the house. And the house I was 10 feet from the yard, but probably 30 feet from my house. And Harley's 55 pounds. I grabbed her collar, and she was still attached to me by her leash. And I kind of leaned up on the back of her, and with my legs like a seal, I just said to her, take me to daddy, go see daddy. Take me to daddy, Harley. Take me to daddy. And I just kept repeating that. And she was licking me, just more so to keep me awake. She wasn't licking the blood, but she was keeping me awake. And she dragged me. That dog saved my life. She dragged me across my neighbor's lawn, across my lawn, up our stairs, and barked until my husband woke up. And I was trying to bang on the door, but I was weak. So I know I wasn't banging very hard. And so, yes, did the dog cause the accident? Yes, but she was just being a dog.
I just want to circle back to the survival instinct. Once the survival instinct, got you to a safe place, did you realize the extent of your injuries?
Oh, I mean, I knew when I was on that front lawn that I couldn't see out of this eye. But I didn't know. I've played a lot of sports. I've done everything from boxing to rugby to women's tackle football to sponge hockey, everything. I've had enough injuries in my life to know that when you get bruised or you're hurt really badly, and that was a huge impact to my face, that I probably had blood behind the eye. That's what I was thinking. Oh, I can't see out of it because I've got blood behind it. There was definitely a point there where I felt and looked, and, I was covered in blood. The dog was covered in blood. We got to the house, our front steps, we got some of the blood out, but we didn't get all of the blood. And my husband woke up and he came to the door, and he's just like, he was in shock. He didn't know what was going on because it looked like I was attacked by a person or a pickaxe, or it looked like a crime scene. And so it's crazy. I just kept saying, go get some ice, go get a cloth. And he ran to go get that, and I tried to make my way to the bathroom because I wanted to look at my eye in the mirror. I'm like, did I lose my eye? And then when I saw it, I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't look right. My face was deformed. My eye was not where it should be. But I still wasn't panicking. I was just like, okay. But I took a picture of it because I couldn't see it, right? I was quite traumatized at that point. So I took a picture so that, how you can open it up on the iPhone. So I could open up and go, did I lose my eye? And then that mother instinct kicks in again. it's like, okay, we're going to the hospital. My daughter's going to come home and it looks like a crime scene in our house. The dog's covered in blood. There's blood all down the hallway, the living room, the bathroom, the front step. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done what I did, but I texted a picture of my daughter of my face saying, accident, come home now, because I couldn't type, I couldn't see, but I wanted her to know that it was an accident. If she comes home, she's not going to walk into something like, the dog's covered in blood and dad and mom are gone. That's not, so there's still wits about you and you still care about your child and their reaction. And so, yeah, I can just imagine. She said to me, she was sitting at the bonfire and she gets this text message. She's like, I need to ride home now. Her friend got her home. They were way out in another area and they got home in like 13 minutes flat.
I would imagine there were many different emotions and, a roller coaster.
Yes.
So, how did acceptance play a part in your healing? I know this is still new, so, where you're at today.
It's 8 weeks yesterday. So it's very new, but I'm a realist.
And it sounds like it was actually to the entire family's advantage that you leaned into those emotions that were coming up for you. And it sounds like it allowed you to say, okay, what's not working here? And it's, you feel bad because they're trying to help and you're empathetic to it, but it allowed you to sort of get in tune with, one second, I'm independent, this is not sitting well with me, how can we make it work? And you sat down as a family and you discussed it. So it actually sounds like it brought you back to a little bit more normalcy within the range of having to figure other things out, right?
There was one day right after the injury and my husband was like, what would you like to eat? And, your throat is raw for where they put the tube for the surgery. And my face was frozen and my jaw felt broken. And I said, I don't know, maybe some yogurt, maybe some grapes or strawberries cut up. So I was sitting in the sunroom and I could hear this sound. And I'm looking out the window because I think there's a woodpecker. We used to have a woodpecker in our other house. And I'm like, do I have a woodpecker in this neighborhood too? Is it like, and so I'm looking with my one eye and I'm all bandaged up. I'm looking. Well, my husband comes into the sunroom about 15 minutes later with this tray. I look at those grapes and that strawberry and it looked like someone took the slap chop and it just attacked it. I was like, oh my gosh, that wasn't a woodpecker. That was my husband cutting it so tiny for me so that I could chew it. And so your heart explodes with love. And then he was like, he was literally taking the fruit and the yogurt and he was like, to feed me like a baby. Yeah. And I was like, honey, I can do it. He's like, no. And I could see the pain and hurt on his face. Yeah. And I just said, babe, will it make you feel better to feed me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. For 2 weeks, Lea, for 2.5, not that I was counting, but I was counting. For 17 days, I bit my tongue and let my family baby me because they needed it. That was how they were dealing with my injury, is to be the nurse. So I called them Baba number 1 and Baba number 2. And inside I was really trying to deal with it by biting my tongue, but I was resenting it. And it wasn't until the day where they asked, are you stressed? Let the truth be known, yes. And it's you too stressing me. But after that conversation, I found my strength because I found my voice and I spoke my truth. And then shortly after that, my daughter was in a car accident. I was out on a walk with the dog again, unbeknownst to my family, because, my husband's like, you're never going to walk the dog again. So I would get up early in the mornings to go walk the dog because I wanted to relearn and have my own normalcy, keep my stress down.
He's going to know that now.
He knows. So I would go and walk the dog. And my daughter called me on August 25th. And she's 25 days after my accident. She's like, Mom, is Dad awake? I said, I don't know, honey. I'm out for a walk with Harley. She's like, we were just T-boned on our way to work. Her and her girlfriend were on their way to work. I can hear her girlfriend crying in the background. Mom mode. I was not half blind. I was not 4 blocks away from home, sprinting home. I could have outrun Donovan Bailey because I tried calling my husband and he wasn't picking up the phone because he was asleep. I literally sprinted home 4 blocks because that's what you do. So guess what, Lea? On the 26th of August or the 27th, whichever, the very next day, Harley and I started going running. The second I found out that I could run, literally it was 27 days after having my eyeball removed from my head, the dog and I were in training.
With all the things that you need to relearn now,
yes,
how did you break through some of the fears in order to take the action that you're taking?
I'm super stubborn and I see everything as a challenge. So in my mind's eye, it's like, okay, if I, and simple things. My daughter asked me to sew a patch on a pair of sweats. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no problem, honey. That was the day before the accident. So July 31st, she asked me to sew a patch on her sweats. No problem, honey. On August 16th, 17th, here's Mom attempting to thread a needle with, so this eye, I've always had 2 crazy eyes. This eye I call the bad eye because it's one that had surgery 2 years ago. Now it's the only eye. But this eye saw 20/20 far, and this eye saw 20/20 close. So this one would get tired when I was on the computer, and this one would get tired when I was long distance driving. So now I'm trying to thread a needle, which you need to see up close, but this eye only sees far. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to make me crazy. And my husband's sitting on the side of the couch and he's like, babe, do you want some help? Already tentatively asking because he already knows that I don't want the help. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. And then after about another half hour of trying, he's like, well, I can just sew the patch on the sweats. Well, that's when I laughed out loud. I'm like, honey, you've never sewed a button. He's asking me, but God love you for offering to actually put the patch on here, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. So the very simplest of things were instantly hard.
Well, I love your attitude, and it comes down to attitude, and you're a true testament to, our beliefs create our reality. And Absolutely. You have turned every challenge into an opportunity and gone with it. And
I have definitely tried that. Yeah.
Right. With being very aware that, and not denying yourself that there are a lot of emotions that evolved. However, that wasn't going to stop you, and that's because of your beliefs. And you've been able to transform all of that, and you are absolutely hilarious as well.
Our family is really, really funny, or so we've been told. Like we actually have a joke where we call ourselves the reality show family, because you can't make the stuff up that happens in our family, and we just roll with it.
You are an absolute inspiration, and you've taught us many lessons today, and life is a journey of transitions, and the goal here is to provide hope for our viewers, but also, could you share one tangible tool, takeaway that led you to your next chapter?
I'm pretty fearless. That's for sure. And maybe it's a stubbornness, because stubborn never gives up. And if you never give up, you win. So I just look at things of, okay, I lost the eye, next. How am I going to do something efficiently, safely, smart? And everything to me has a solution. Absolutely everything. So in my job, all I do is find solutions. It's chaos, it's swirling, it's all, and as a live event producer, if I'm smiling, I call it the game day face. So it doesn't matter that I'm on a unicycle, blindfolded with my hair on fire, going backwards. Nobody needs to know that there's a gong show behind the curtain. Because if the producer comes out with the headset on and the clipboard and is smiling like this and talking to everybody, and I'll be talking to some of my volunteers, I'm like, okay, so we have a really huge problem back there, but if you smile and I'm smiling, great. You go now and I'll go this way, and we just smile. And then none of the guests, the vendors, the venue, the clients, the nonprofits, the charities, the government officials, the media, no one in the room knows if you're smiling. So I often have people say to me, how are you so calm dealing with your eye? Maybe 32 years of working in an incredibly intense live broadcast situation where you have to make split-second decisions instantaneously to stay on time, hit your marks, keep all the sponsors happy. It's live television. And so it's, or live sports production. It's intense. When things go sideways, I will always be the calmest person in the room.
I think that's a very, very powerful message. And I thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all the time we have today. But before we go, can you tell people how cool you are and what you decided to do with your new eyeball? Because I absolutely, this also is another, display of your attitude. And I think it's very important for our viewers to hear what you did with your new eye.
When I first lost the eye, I had to wear the patch. And so I was calling myself a pirate. I'm a pirate. I'm going to deal with being a pirate. And then I got my new eye in, and I was a ninja. I got my new eye in, but we got face masks as COVID. So I had the face mask on, and I was just calling myself a ninja. What I didn't tell anyone, my family included, nobody knew this, is that I went in to meet with the ocularists, and I know that they hand paint the iris. And I'm watching this incredible ocularist hand painting my eyeball, and it looks like he's doing it on the head of a pin or head of a flat nail. And he's holding it, and then he would come up to me and he'd put it up and he's matching it. And I said, John, do you take any special requests? He's like, probably thinking I want like a heterochromia eye, right? Like I want one blue one and one green one. And he's like, he doesn't even skip a beat. He's like, what do you have in mind? I said, well, my nickname is Killer Bee, because I used to box. My nickname's always been Bee since I've been grade 7. But my sports nickname is Killer Bee or Killer Bee. And I said, I just was thinking, if you're making this really cool painting, could you paint a bee on my fake eyeball? He's like, yep. So actually, I went away for lunch and I came back, and it's a father-son team. And so the dad was holding my eyeball in his hand. And some of my friends have misunderstood. They thought that I got an eye transplant because I kept talking about the surgery that I have to go for. So they thought that I got a transplanted eye, like somebody else's eye, and that I got it tattooed. No, I've got a synthetic eye that I asked them to paint a bumblebee on.
I'll tell you, you and your story, you are such an inspiration, and you've taught all of us a lot of lessons today. And I thank you for being here. And to our viewers, thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to sharing this space with you next time.